much for sticking around and not going and getting your lunch just yet. Today's session is going to be really fun, informative, and hopefully insightful for you all. So I am Lottie, the founder of Banish, which is an education platform, as you probably found out yesterday, that helps predominantly Australians reduce their waste and live more sustainably. I started this over 6 years when I was that person who wanted to do more when it came to the planet. I was looking into my bins, I was looking at my consumption, going, there has to be an easier way. When I couldn't find somebody or a source of that information, I set out to create it, because the more research that I was doing, I was finding out all of the things that were wrong with the planet and all of the things that we needed to do, but there was no simple and easy guide out there for individuals who wanted to make some changes without completely transforming their whole lives. There was information that was out there for people who had been living sustainably or off the grid, or who had the power to change to solar or to buy an EV, but for the everyday individual and a young Australian, there wasn't any information out there for them, just on those simple and actionable steps that they can do in order to reduce their waste and to reduce their impact. So today we're going to do a little bit of a powwow about recycling, because it is a topic that everybody loves to talk about. So first things first, I just want to know in the audience, who here lives in Australia? Put your hand up. Majority of people, and then we probably have a couple of people. You can put your hand up if you don't. Great. Okay, this makes my job a lot easier just because of the different landscapes and recycling all around the world. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to do a little bit of an initial quiz to see how good you all are at recycling. And then I'll talk about recycling in Australia. I'll touch on the Australasian recycling label. Then I'm going to talk about those hard to recycle items. And then we're going to do a test at the end. And hopefully you all have improved from then. Now, I'm not sure how trusting I am of this audience. So for this one, I might get you all to close. Well, first of all, I'm going to ask you a question, and then I'll get you to close your eyes before you answer. So this single-use coffee cup, you're guessing whether it should go into landfill or into your recycling bin. So if everybody could close their eyes, please. And if you could raise your hand if you think that it should go into your landfill bin, put your hand up, and raise your hand if you think it should go into your recycling bin. Put your hand up. A double hand, great, love it. Okay, perfect. So the right answer for this one is, you can open up your eyes again, the right answer for this one is landfill. So coffee cups are a mixed material. They're made with plastic and also paper on the outside, and then your coffee cup lid is often a different type of plastic altogether. So that's ultimately why it needs to go into landfill. Now the next one, we're getting a little bit niche here. Saline eyedroppers. I'm not sure of the dry eyes around the room. So we're going to guess for this one whether it's going to go into landfill or recycling. So if we could all close our eyes again, please. And then put your hand up if you would put this into your landfill bin at home. And then put your hand up if you would put this in your recycling bin at home. Interesting. You can open up your eyes again. That was pretty much a mixed half and half there. And the right answer for this one is landfill. So the reason why you can't put this one into your curbside recycling bin is because of its size. So generally speaking, anything smaller than a credit card can't go into your curbside recycling bin because it falls through and it slips through the cracks, or it actually can't be identified by the different recycling machines. Next, we have this bike oil, which is an aerosol can. So we're going to guess whether this one goes into landfill or recycling. So close your eyes. And now put your hand up if you think you would put this in your landfill bin. And now put your hand up if you think you'd put this in your recycling bin. And the right answer for this one is recycling. So aerosols need to be recycled, because otherwise when they sit in landfill and they reach high temperatures, they will burst like a little firework, which is not what we want to see. And then lastly, we have that pesky plastic single-use cutlery. Would you put this one in your landfill bin or your recycling bin? Close your eyes. A for landfill, B for recycling. And the right answer for this one is A, landfill. So the reason why is, again, we've got a material that is very small, but often this is such an obscure shape that it will actually get tangled up in the machine gears when it is being recycled, which is why we can't put it into our recycling bin. So if we just recap over those 4 and do a tally in your head about how many that you got right, that would be great. So we had coffee cups, saline eyedroppers, bike oil, single-use cutlery. So now who got none of them right? Who got 1 of them right? Who got 2 of them right? Who got 3 of them right? And who got 4 right? 1 person. You can leave, it's fine. Thanks so much for coming. Okay, great. That is a pretty good, I'm pretty proud of everybody here. I'm pretty good. We've got a pretty good base layer, and hopefully after this you will all be getting 4 out of 4. So in Australia, we rank 5th when it comes to the amount of waste that we create. So that means out of all of the countries in the world, we create the 5th largest amount of waste. We are the 55th largest country in the world. So as a nation that is relatively small, that has quite a 55th largest number of people in the world, we create a hell of a lot more waste than pretty much every other country. We love to consume. In 2017 to 2018, Australians used 3.4 million tonnes of plastic, but just 9.4% of that was actually recycled. This is a pretty staggering statistic, and one that I definitely use as a lot of inspiration in my work that I'm doing in order to try and increase these recycling rates. But I find this statistic in particular actually quite positive in a weird way, that between 10 to 15% of curbside recycling is actually placed in the wrong bin. I honestly thought it would be worse than that, but it's obviously a number that we can still improve on. So when it comes to recycling, the biggest issue that we often see is surrounding plastics. So the issue with plastic, and the biggest design flaw when it was invented, is that we don't know how to get rid of it. It was this amazing material in theory. You can mold it into lots of different colours, you can make it clear, it's relatively clean, it can be used in a medical grade setting. There's all of these positives, but we don't know actually how to dispose of it and how to get rid of it. So every time we use it, or we leave it out in the sun, or it ends up on our oceans or on our beaches, it breaks down into smaller fragments called microplastics. Now, microplastics are defined as a piece of plastic that is smaller than 5 millimetres in size, and it's estimated that in Australia we consume 5 grams of microplastics each and every week, which is the equivalent of a credit card's worth of plastic that we're pretty much just like chomping on with our coffee as a little bit of a snack. We don't know the actual health or the detrimental impacts that this is having to our health, but we can pretty much estimate that it's not going to be as nutritious as us chomping on a piece of kale. So it's something that kind of, for me, brings to the forefront that we need to not only be looking at our consumption of this material, but also looking at ultimately where it ends up and how it's disposed of. So in Australia, we're kind of sitting in between the linear and the recycling economy. The linear economy is a take, make, waste economy, where you take an item, you use it, you throw it in the bin. The recycling economy is where you take something, you use it, you recycle it, and it gets made into something else. But generally speaking, plastics can only be recycled between 3 to 4 times before they reach the end of their lifespan. So ultimately, it is going to end up in landfills eventually. And then we have the holy grail of the circular economy. Circularity is becoming a bit of a buzzword. Everybody is talking about it. Everybody wants to strive towards it. But in order for us to get to a circular economy, we need collaboration and we need lots of different people and stakeholders to be working together. One of the things that I want to highlight, because the chances are that people who have decided to come to this session love recycling, is that it isn't really the solution. Don't know where that random E came from, but generally we used to have reduce, reuse, recycle. It had a really fun jingle. Now there's not really a fun jingle that you can do with 9 R's, and they are rethink, refuse, reduce, reuse, regift, repair, rent, recycle, rot. What I want to highlight on this slide is the fact that recycling is second from the bottom. It is not the solution to our problems. We get these feel-good endorphins when we put something in the recycling bin. We feel like we're doing something because it's a tangible action that we're taking, where in actual fact, rethinking and refusing our consumption in the first place is actually the best thing that we can do. But it's almost like you can't see the tangible benefits of that as much, because when you're not using something, nobody really pats you on the back and they're like, hey, good work, you did nothing today. So it doesn't really give us those feel-good endorphins. It doesn't encourage us to keep on going and keep on doing more. But when you put something in that recycling bin at home, you can pat yourself on the back. You probably wave at the bin man like I do, and you're like, hey, that was mine. You just put my recycling in your truck. How cool. It's not actually really what we want to be doing. Ultimately, we want that truck driver to be zooming past your place because you had nothing in your bin for him actually to pick up. But we are here because ultimately we are going to be consuming. It would be great if I could stand up here with a plastic jar that was filled with my plastic consumption for the last 2 years, but that's not realistic. What is realistic is that everybody in this room learns something from today and they're able to take it back to their households, to their local communities, and to spread awareness that recycling isn't the answer, but if you do have something, you should try your very best to make sure that it is put in the right place so that it can either be recycled into something else or it doesn't turn and wreak havoc or destruction on that recycling bin. So the biggest contaminators in household curbside recycling bins, this was released by Planet Ark, are soft plastics and plastic bags. This isn't just people being pissed off at the fact that we can't use soft plastic recycling anymore, but it is people sorting all of their recycling, doing all of the right thing, putting it into a garbage bag, and then putting it into their curbside bin. That is a really leading cause of contamination in curbside recycling bins, and it also has really severe downstream consequences because plastic bags get wrapped around the coils and the machinery that processes a lot of recycling, which is going to lead to the conveyor belt having to stop, men having to come out, or women, and take everything apart and actually then pause the recycling to then get it started again. Nappies are a really big one. Ropes and hoses, again, that's going to get caught in everything. Broken crockery and glassware, this contaminates other items. So say, for example, you've got a broken plate that could stab into a milk bottle, or it could enter into your tin can, which then contaminates that item. Clothing is a really big one. Polystyrene, so that plastic, that white, squishy, squeaky stuff. Foods and liquids, and also e-waste. Clothing and e-waste can be recycled, but not in your curbside recycling bin. For me as an educator in this space, it's very, very difficult because in Australia, in every single different council in Australia, we recycle differently. It depends on the different contracts that your local council will have with a recycling company. So say, for example, if you live in Melbourne, Maybe you have a purple bin. Does anyone have a purple bin? Well, we've got a couple of people. Everyone else in the audience is like, what is a purple bin? And I want one of those ASAP. Then some people might have a green bin that they don't just put in their garden waste, but they can also put in their food scraps. In my local area, I've got a blue bin. So for me, blue bin means I put my paper in that. For the people who've got a purple bin, that means they put their glass in there. And for the people who've got the green bin, which has the organics in there, they can put their food scraps in that. What I'm trying to say is that you could work somewhere and you could live somewhere and your recycling could be different. It is confusing. It is really difficult. Victoria and South Australia are probably the most progressed in rolling out statewide recycling services so that no matter where you work or live, you can have the same bins and the same systems. But generally, this is how I recommend you set everything up. If you need help, a really great resource is the Recycle Mate app. You simply scan the barcode on the back of a product, it geolocates you, and then it tells you what bin that, where that item should go. But generally speaking, this is how I set mine up at home. So I have 4 or 5 different waste streams. I'm obviously not a normal person, and I'm imagining that people in this room are definitely not normal as well. But in my recycling bin, you've got aluminium, you've got glass, you've got paper, you've got cardboard, you've got plastic, you've got milk and juice cartons. Now, I want to talk about this one in particular because who's here has a funky gut and loves their alternative milks, their oat milks, their almond milks, their everything in between? Yeah? A couple of people are like, yes, gut issues over here. Milk cartons that are made from Tetra Paks are really difficult to recycle. They're made with multiple different layers. In there you've got plastic, you've got paper, you've got aluminium, and it means that the plastic recyclers are like, we don't want them. The paper recyclers are like, no, we don't want that. And the aluminium recyclers are like, no, we don't want that either. There's a couple of very select councils in Australia that will actually take your milk cartons, but majority won't take them. So that's just one to keep in mind. But if you've got fresh milk and fresh juice, then generally speaking, you can recycle that. Your red bin is that broken glass, nappies, your dirty containers. Everything needs a quick rinse. You don't need to run everything through the dishwasher and scrub it until you get tendinitis in your arm. But you do need to give everything a quick rinse. We've got compost, which is where you're going to put, that could also be your FOGO stream, which is your food organics, garden organics, if you've got that access from your council yet. And then we've got your odd bits and bobs. These odd bits and bobs we want to try more than anything to keep out of any of these bins. That is batteries, light bulbs, e-waste. These all contain toxic chemicals that we don't want to go to landfill, but also batteries are one of the leading causes of fires, not only in rubbish trucks, but also in recycling facilities themselves. Clothing is another one that we want to keep out of all of these bins as well. So we've learned about a couple of different myths to bust. So now you all know that we can recycle empty aerosols like the bike oil, that containers with food can be recycled. We know that is false. Items smaller than a credit card can't be recycled. That is true. Australia is actually one of the best paper recyclers in the world. We have an 87% recovery rate in Australia when it comes to paper and cardboard. It's a little bit of a good news story for everybody there. Broken crockery and glass can't be recycled, and you should never keep your recycling in a plastic bag. Now, who knows about these little numbers? The numbers that everybody loves to call recycling numbers. Now, these aren't actually recycling numbers, but they're called plastic resin identification codes. Doesn't really have the same ring to it. But what they do is they don't actually tell us that something can be recycled. They tell us the type of plastic that it's made from. So an item like a single-use bottle will have PET. Your milk bottles might have HDPE. PVC, not really seen too commonly on the bottom of items. LDPE, which is going to be, again, another bottle PP, that could be a food grade material. PS, that's that polystyrene. And 7, other. It's a different type of plastic, but it's not one of the previous 6 mentioned, but we're not going to really disclose exactly what the type of material is. So that is why it gives us an indication that we can't trust this as a recycling label. We can't look at something and say, well, the recycling triangle was on it, because it could be too small. It could be a material like 7 that we don't actually know what the material is. And also, we could have mixed materials within this. It's not a good guide for us to be using. It's very outdated to be looking at the triangles. Instead, what we want to be doing is we want to be looking for the Australasian Recycling Label, or the ARL label. Now, this you'll see one of 3 different images on the back of a pack, and that will be the black triangle, which is curbside recyclable, the white triangle, which means you need to take another step in order to recycle that, whether that be, it used to be return to store with soft plastics, whether it be screw the lid back on, whether it be tear the film off. You need to do one extra step, or we've got the little bin, which is not recyclable, or landfill. Now, Coles and Woolworths have said that they would like to have 85% of products on supermarket shelves containing this label. So they are setting the standards for packaging to be able to be recycled, because we're seeing this as well used as marketing. Brands don't want to put little rubbish bins on the back of their product, so now they're adapting and changing their packaging so that it has to meet these guidelines, which are set by APCO. Now, a question that I always get is about lids. I love lids. Like, if you come to the Banish Recycling Hub, we have a lot of lids, but they're really confusing and they're really difficult because nobody really knows what to do with them. This comes down to checking with your local council, because some of them will say, yay, we love lids, and other ones are like, no, we hate lids. Some people say screw them back on, squeeze out any extra air and you're fine. But the biggest thing to remember with lids is you want to keep like-minded materials together. So if you have a plastic bottle with a plastic lid, then great. If you have a glass bottle with a metal lid, they're going to ultimately end up at 2 different recyclers, so don't screw them together. Keep them separated. And if something does get separated, like say for example a beer bottle lid, which is a tiny baby one, that's going to be smaller than our credit card, so we then can't put it in our curbside recycling bin. So just remember that. I've only got 2 minutes left, so I don't really want to go too much onto these ones because I want you all to play bingo again. But pretty much when it comes to disposing of things, do your research, check out the resources that we have on the Banish website. But I wanted to quickly, I think most of you were at the session yesterday, but just reiterate BRAD, which is the Banish Recycling and Disposal Program that is part of Banish. So people put all of these funky items in a shoebox and they post them to us in the mail. I know it sounds like a bizarre concept, but we have 2,500 people doing it every single month. We have 200 volunteers that sort through all of these different items so they can then be sent on to the right Australian recyclers. But it's things like beauty products, plastic bread tags, blister packs, coffee pods, the pumps and sprays off your shampoo bottles or your cleaning products, pens and markers, those bottle top lids, if your council is a lid hater, send them to us, and then also your dental products as well. So now that I've whizzed through that, let's play bingo again, but this time I'm going to introduce Brad as an option. So you've now got 3 options. So let's have a go. Do you think that you all need to close your eyes, or do you want to see what everybody's guessing? Will you be honest, or are you going to do these ones? Because that's what my worst thing is, when people are like, could be this one, and then the next one comes up and they're like, could be that one as well. So maybe we'll just close our eyes again. So close your eyes and then put your hand up if you would put this coffee bag, so we're talking like some beans at home, would you put this coffee bag into your landfill bin? Put your hand up. Would you put it into your recycling bin? Put your hand up. And then would you send it to Brad? Put your hand up. Okay, Brad does not want this. Brad never said anything about soft plastic, so please do not send this to Brad. What we've got here is we've got a funky material. We've got some kind of like, there's like a foil lining in coffee bags. We've also got, if you can't really see it too well, but there's a kind of like tiny little valve that lets all of your coffee beans breathe. So then we've introduced a third material. You've got plastic on the outside, you've got foil on the inside, and then you've got some kind of breathing mechanism. So because of this, no one wants to recycle this. So landfill for this one. A blister pack or a pill packet. Let's close our eyes and put our hand up if you're going to put this in your landfill bin. Put your hand up if you're going to put it in your recycling bin. And then put your hand up if you're going to send it to Brad. Some people were listening today, and the right answer for this one is Brad. So we've got mixed materials here. We've got aluminium and PVC plastic, which is why most recyclers won't take them. But fortunately, when you get 300 kilos of blister packs, the recyclers are like, okay, Lottie will take them. We will do something with them. Next, we've got this supplement bottle. It's a plastic bottle. Are you going to close your eyes and put this in A, your landfill bin, B, your recycling bin, C, Brad? You're going to put this in your recycling bin, everybody. That was pretty good. I feel like we had like 99.5% of people saying the right one. Bit of a proud mum moment here. And then we've got bottle top lids. Are you going to... These are individual. They've lost their body. They're just the lid only. They're tiny little baby lid. A, are you going to put it in landfill? B, are you going to recycle it? Or C, are you going to send it to Brad? Yeah, you are. You are going to send it to Brad. Amazing. So let us just recap. Do a quick tally in your head. How many did you get right? We had coffee bag landfill, we had blister packs Brad, we had supplement bottles recycling, and we had bottle top lids Brad. Who got none right? Who got one right? Who got two right? Who got three right? Who got four right? Who improved? Who didn't improve? That's okay, it's fine, don't worry about it. Well, thank you all so much for listening along. I play bingo just like that every Wednesday on Instagram. So if you want to play along tonight, you can follow, and it's as much fun as it sounds. We get people, thousands, tens of thousands of people playing every week. Thank you all so much for coming today to be sponges and learn more about recycling. I hope you feel empowered and like you know more about what you can and can't put in your recycling bins at home. So thank you so much.